We welcome Jeannine Cook back to Black Authors Matter TV. And she is not only a bookstore owner, uh, she came on before as a bookstore owner. In fact, she was during COVID, what caught our attention, she was delivering books on horseback in Philly. That's what uh, really, she got like national news coverage for that. And so now she has her memoir that just came out. It's called It's Me They Follow. And welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV. We want to unmute your mic so uh, we can hear you.
Hi, hey, thank you so much, Miss Richardson. Thank you for the invite. Thanks for your consistency and all you've been doing. And you really, I mean, it's such an inspiration what you're doing for authors. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Well, you're welcome. And congratulations on your book, your memoir. Now, do you have a copy of your book handy?
Oh, nope.
No, you don't. Okay. All right. Well, it's called It's Me They Follow.
Well, so it's two books. There's It's Me They
It's two
Follow, and
books.
then there's also Shut Up and Read.
Okay. So
Right.
how?
So It's Me They Follow was a novel that came out in October. And then
Okay.
Shut Up and Read is a memoir that came out last Tuesday. And the way that it worked was HarperCollins, Amistad HarperCollins, they gave me a two-book deal. And the two books kind of speak to one another. One is a fictionalized story of the origin of the bookshop, and then the memoir is kind of like the present, like where we are right now, with the bookshop.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah, and
okay.
they kind of speak to each other, you know?
Okay. Well, they came out so close together too.
Yes, that's what
That's
everybody
unusual.
says. And so that was a strategy that my editor, she's amazing, Abby West at Amistad. But
Okay.
the idea was that you're kind of living in this bookshop world from two different angles.
Okay.
And that if they do well, which I hope they do well, and I hope folks that are listening help them do well, we can continue it on as a series of some sort.
Okay. So, um, were these your first two books?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I've
Okay,
never,
I thought so. So
yeah,
how did
both
you
of
go
them.
from bookstore owner to author?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's kind of it's a while to go from one side of the aisle to the other side of the aisle. I think it gives you a huge appreciation for the hard work of authors, and also helps authors, going out on the road, have a huge appreciation for what it is that we do as booksellers. And so it's like looking at the same, you know, industry from different lenses.
Okay, so now how's the bookstore doing?
The bookshop is doing great. The bookshop is still rocking and rolling. Tomorrow, we have a one of our customers who's going to be um, proposing to his fiance. Hopefully, she says yes and becomes his fiance tomorrow. So we're all like excited
Oh,
and
okay.
putting flowers up, and it becomes when we say it's a community space, we really mean it, right? Whether that be like we've had baby showers and weddings. In addition to all of our events, we have this series that like elders is libraries, where you can come and you can sit with an elder, and like about 15 people sit and ask one elder as many questions as we can. We had a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright in there last week, who we did a whiskey tasting with. So the bookshop is very eclectic. We call it avant-garde, and it's doing many things all at once.
Now, are these all your ideas? These all these the different
It's a
things that are
community.
happening?
It's a community, but yeah, I was a teacher for many years, and so I think, and then
Mm,
I did curriculum development. So you know how sometimes life is preparing you for your next phase,
yes,
right? And you don't even
yes.
realize it. What were you doing before you were doing this?
Oh, well, I mean, I've had like five different lives.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Exactly.
but I have been an entrepreneur
Yep. Yeah.
um
And when
all
you're
of
an
my adult
entrepreneur, I
life.
think you're
Yes.
naturally wearing a ton. You just get used to wearing being all the jobs.
Right. And
It's
also, when you're an entrepreneur, you can have an idea and you actually can execute it without having to ask permission from
exactly.
anybody. And
Which I
so
think
now,
was necessary for
yes,
for certain personality types. It's
yes,
like you need that freedom to, like, explore and innovate,
Yes. 'Cause the reason I went in, well, I went in business when I was 25 for many reasons, but mainly because I don't want to be under anybody's thumb. I'm not going to be controlled. That's then, that's ever since, that's now.
Yeah, I mean, and
I'm
it's
not
just a
going to do
natural
it.
fit.
Yeah.
I mean, and
So
I think in many ways writing is similar, right? You get to like, this is the idea, right? This is what came forth. This is what, this is where we are with it. And then the risk of being an entrepreneur is the same as being a writer, which is, will people respond positively to what you've created and what you put out in the world? Um, will the results meet the input?
that is true. And entrepreneurs, we tend to be optimistic. Yeah, it took me many years to temper my optimism
Mm,
because when I was bringing up, my optimism would be so big. So, because it's the idea I would come up with, I thought it was so excellent that
right.
everybody would agree and jump on board. And I
Yeah.
had to learn that's not likely to happen.
Yeah. Sometimes it
Not
just
on
takes a
your
little
first time
time.
out.
Exactly. It
You
just
have
takes a
to
little
build it.
time. Right, like right now we have the trolley tour. And I keep trying to explain to people like the trolley tour is like having a whole nother business, right? We have Harriet's bookshop, but then the trolley tour is you start at Harriet's and we take you to five other Black woman-owned businesses in Philadelphia. And in between you meet like local poets and local musicians and we take you to spaces that are kind of like, if you're not from Philly, you get a little behind the scenes into what Philly really feels like. Um, and but it's a whole nother business. And people are like, Jeannine, why don't you do that all year round? I'm like, excuse me, this is a whole nother thing. Customer service and then, working with the different shops and working with the it's like the musicians, the artists, the trolley tour conductor. Like it's a lot. And
Yeah.
so that's the other thing about entrepreneurship and optimism is you have to, like, when you say temper it, it's like every great idea takes a lot of great work too,
And resources,
Right, right,
you know. I mean,
right.
meaning money.
Yes. Yeah, like actual dollars.
Yeah, actual dollars.
And so Harriet sponsors the trolley tour. And we
Okay.
we sponsored it the first year, just walking out on faith. I think that's the other thing that we don't talk a lot about in entrepreneurship is that it's truly a faith
It
walk, right?
is. It's a
It's
faith
like
walk.
we
It's
walked out on faith, like hopefully folks will buy tickets and we'll make this money back. But Harriet is gonna sponsor it because I believed in the idea so much. And because it was so necessary, so many of our businesses were closing so rapidly, right? And so
Mhm.
everybody was celebrating when they opened, but nobody was saying anything when they closed. Or people would be like,
Yeah, it's
oh,
true.
but not
It's true.
necessarily doing anything about it, right?
It's
Um,
true. Mhm.
and
And
so
yeah,
here
mhm.
these businesses get an infusion of customers week after week for this one quarter of the year, and it's the best we could do for now. If we could, and as we, as I grow as a leader, as I grow as a human being, I believe that I can expand and I can work with larger teams, and we can continue to do this work in grander ways.
Yeah, it's you just you talking about some of the things you're doing just it took me back to some of the ideas I had in the past that I some of which I pulled the trigger on. Some I didn't. And I did when we had our bookstore, because I don't know if I told you when you were
No,
on.
you didn't tell me before,
We
I
had a
don't think.
bookstore for 10 years,
Oh, wow.
from 2000 to 2010. My husband and I
Wow.
were both full time. But we
Wow.
were also selling online. So we started
Wow.
off selling books online.
So
And
you were
then,
early with the
oh, we
online.
were very early, December of 98.
Nice.
And then we opened the bookstore. And so we were shipping out of the back and customers were walking in the front. So, it was uh it was
And
a
then
lot of
and that's
work.
a whole nother conversation about working with your partner,
Yeah, it
right? Because
is.
that ain't
It
easy
is.
either.
Well, in my case, it worked perfectly.
Oh,
My
wow.
husband, we were both in business when we met.
Okay.
So entrepreneurship was our thing.
Okay.
He's retired now. He's 10 years older than me, but
Okay.
he he was on the tech side. So when we started online, he handled all the tech part. He and his
Okay.
best friend. I'm on the more the marketing, and I was curating the whatever we were going to sell. So we never clashed. Like we were doing two completely different things at work. So, and we basically were always on the same. Uh,
Page.
well, our way of thinking was the same.
Nice.
We didn't have arguments about business. We
So
really
how did when you I mean, and if you don't mind, but
no, I
how
don't
did
mind it
you all
at all.
how'd you know that you all were a good fit early on?
You mean
Because
when we
folks, there
met?
might be other folks like myself who want to do that, but it's like,
Okay.
you want to be selective about the partner.
Yeah, you do. Well, this is what I tell young women. I don't know about men, I know about women. Because
Yes.
I was married before. So
Okay.
when I had my first business, I was married to my first husband.
Okay.
He was a drain. He didn't help me. He didn't support. He thought, okay, she has a business. We have money. He
Go
he
for
and yeah,
it.
go. So you can't have somebody that doesn't support what you do. It's better to be single
Yeah.
than to have a husband, especially because a boyfriend is not like a husband. Because a
Right.
husband, y'all are together legally, y'all are connected. Now, you know, God gave me the foresight to never have his name on the bank account for
Wow.
the business. So, and that was a blessing because if that were the case, he would have drained everything and it would have just gone under. So after him, because I had my first business at 25. So after that was a disaster. It was short term, but it was a disastrous relation. He was not ready to be grown up, and he was 4 years older than me. So that's what we see. My husband now that I had been married to for 33 years, he was 10 years older than me because I said, you know what, 4 years is not enough.
Not, right. Right. Like,
Because
because
I was
you,
always a mature
right, I'm
person.
about to
I
say,
knew
because
what I
in your,
want.
you might be at one age in on paper, but you might be a different age in your
Right,
mind.
in mindset. And so he never grew up. It's like he thought he lived for today. Not, he never planned anything. So anyway, if you're gonna be in business as a female, you either need to just be single or you need to be with somebody else who understands the importance of being in business. So I met my husband, Willie, my real husband, my true husband. If I hadn't moved to Houston, I would have never met him. So my first husband, he was the reason that I moved to Houston from DC. I had no plans to do that. But
Wow.
he just all of a sudden wanted to move. Saying that was my first red flag. He never had any plan. He never planned anything. But anyway, that's what got me here. And so I met my husband at a business conference. So
Hmm.
we were already at
In
a place
alignment.
where we both were in alignment with our
Hmm.
thinking.
Hmm.
And then in one of our early conversations, you know how you ask a man, well, what are you looking for in a mate? The first thing he said was, I'm looking for somebody who understands the importance of being in business. So
Mm.
that was all she wrote right there.
Go ahead, Willie.
He's he because he was married before, and his spouse, she's family, but she didn't understand his passion. She wanted him to be a corporate, just everything. And when you're in business, it's different. You gotta have. It's not for the faint of heart. You can't be weak, and you have to really be committed to it. I mean, it takes serious commitment, and it's a different way of life. So, it you need to be with somebody who's like-minded. If you all are in the business together, uh, all the better. Some people aren't, and that can work too. But you can't be competing with each other. You have to be together. You have to really be one, and you have to like the person, not just love the person. You have to like the person that you're
Mm.
with. Because my husband and I were together every day, all day, every day. Now we weren't in each other's faces because we did different things. We were in the same office, not room, but our offices. So you need to either be by yourself and know it, but I believe I believe in relationships and marriage, and I think meeting the right person for you is what's important. But you have to be in the right place to meet that person. You
Hmm.
know, you have to be somewhere where you all are like minded. So
Yeah, absolutely.
generally, a club. I never met anybody decent at a club, and I don't know if that's okay. That was for me. That's
Right.
not where you meet them. That's
Yeah.
that's that's not. Most of the men in clubs are married or they're in relationships trying to do something on the side. They're not genuine. I just this is
Right.
it's that's been
No,
my
I like the
experience.
wisdom. Share the wisdom.
Let
We
me say
need it.
that. That's my
We
experience.
need the wisdom because I think like there's certain times where, so I got a chance to interview Alice Walker when her
Oh,
journals were coming out. And one of the
okay.
things that I asked her, I said, you share a lot in these journals. Like this is like, you telling us about who you had crushes on, who you didn't like, who you had beef with. You talk about your money, you talk about, just the so much, right? Health issues, mental health issues. And I said, what made you feel like you wanted to share so much of who you are with everyone? And she said, listen, Jeannine, like this wisdom, this life that I've lived is should be medicine for the next generation, right? It should be something that we should openly, nothing is off limits, nothing is taboo because if you can take it and you can use it and apply it, please do. That's the point. And so I appreciate you sharing because sometimes folks don't want to talk about like if you got a solution, give it to us so we're not out here, like trying to run and run and run to get to the point that you already been to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's when you're a woman in business, it can be challenging
Oh,
to
absolutely.
um and meeting people can sometimes it it might seem like at the beginning it might work because a lot of times men are attracted to women who seem to be going somewhere, but then it can be what you always have to make sure you include them in what you're doing because and there are men watching the show. Men have egos, they have to be fed. And if you don't keep that in mind all the time, it causes problems.
Mm.
So I had a great mother. A lot of these things are, you see your mother. My mother was uh, very wise and she taught me how to be a wife. That's what I learned from her. Now, some of the things that she had to deal with, she didn't want us to deal with, and I could see those, and you can sift through and find the what works and what doesn't. But one thing my mother never compromised on were her principles ever.
Mm.
So, and she was a disciplinarian, but she was very loving, and she created the structure and peace in the home and all of that. My dad was a pastor, and so she was um, you know, a first lady that helped him. But she wasn't like some of the first ladies now where they're trying to, be public themselves and famous. She was a real helpmeet to him.
Mm.
So, but I learned about men's egos, they have to be fed. You have to keep that in mind. These are just real life tips.
Teamwork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do, you have to. And so but it is possible and it's so don't give up. You just haven't met him yet. If he's out there,
Yeah.
but don't waste time with people who are not going to be men who are clearly not going to be it. So that's like a waste of time. It's
Right.
like blocking somebody who could be your man.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. So
I mean, it's so funny. My new litmus test. I'm like, well, did you read my book?
well, you might say, did you read a book? That might be
Right.
a
And I'm just like, because it's like, how could you proclaim to be interested in someone who writes books and not even think to read them? I was like,
well, if that's your like, we have to know what we need. That's
yeah.
the other thing, because I'm an author too, but I wasn't then. So I needed somebody who was responsible. Well, one loved God. That is important because if you love God, there's some things you're not going to do. There's
Right.
there's a there's a there's some there's a what a rudder steering you.
And so do you just ask that flat out when you first meet? Or
No,
how do
no,
you?
you can tell by somebody's conversation. You can talk to somebody for 30 minutes and figure out who they are. So that was number one for me. Number two, they have to love me
Mm.
and they need to want to just be with me and not I'm not gonna be a side chick or not. I'm not dealing with none of that. That's just I'm not. So you have to know what you want. And three, they have to be they have to want to take care of me, be responsible for me. It doesn't mean that we're not both pooling our money, but they have to know they're the person who's responsible for the family. They
Mm.
have to know that already. Because I can't
Right.
teach a man how to be a man.
Yeah.
He has to know how to do that already. And if he doesn't know, he's not the man for me. That's
Hmm.
he might work for some with somebody else. I don't know. Some women want to have to give everybody the facts of life. That's not me. So anyway, we're talking about something in your
No,
book.
but it's all good. I mean, I think that's a great segue about a memoir because that's what the memoir is about. The memoir is about life. It's real life. Um,
Okay.
and it's interesting because the novel came out first and it was fictionalized and it's a love story and it's this and it's that. And the shopkeeper who is the main character is like, running a bookshop, or wanting to run a bookshop, but also playing matchmaker by accident, and so she's also very much into love, and what makes love work and what makes matches sustain, even if she can't figure it out for herself, right? And so it's no coincidence that we're talking about it. And then in the memoir, you find like where the parallels exist and where they don't. I think the love story more in the memoir is the story between my own parents, right? And the ways in which they are able to navigate all of the complexities of what it means to be like young and wanting to have a family and being deeply in love, but also having such different versions of what love means. Um, and so it's like, how do you make this work? Can you make it work when you have different definitions, and it
Well, that
being
is true.
because we're talking about words and we're talking about books, and which really means we're talking about philosophy and ideas,
Yes.
it's like how do you find alignment on certain things, and in the midst of like lots of upheaval, right? My mother went blind when we were children, right? And so what does
Oh.
that mean for a relationship? My father was diagnosed with a terminal illness when we were children. So what does that do to a relationship? These I mean, and this is real, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are real things that happen in our real lives, and it's the way in which we learn how to navigate this life. And then you have this child that comes out of it. You have three children that come out of it, and throughout the memoir, my father calls me number two, right? He calls us all by our birth order, right? So he doesn't call us by our names. And I say to him, Dad, like, it works for my sisters, but number two also has another meaning. I don't want to be number two. And he's just, he's constantly in the memoir telling me to shut up. Which is part, it's kind of it's one of the reasons why the book is called Shut Up and Read,
Oh,
among
okay.
other reasons, right? But
Okay.
you have this whole, when I approached Amistad HarperCollins about the book, I remember early on they were like, "This title is kind of aggressive, Jeannine. Shut up and read." Like, but when you dig into the actual memoir, you realize that it has a lot more to do with listening, and learning how to be better listeners to one another. Both, listening to ourselves, right, and hearing that call that we often hear on our lives, but sometimes don't make the time to really listen to that call, listening more to one another. I think we've gotten to a place in our society where folks are excited to share, excited to express. Social media really help with that. But the other side of that is learning how to be better listeners to one another. Even when people are saying things we don't necessarily want to hear, maybe that's the time to listen even more. Um, And then that third version of listening to something much higher than ourselves and much higher than our, our day-to-day relationships. And so that's kind of why there's the thread about listening to Miss Harriet, listening to our ancestors, listening to those who came before us,
Yeah.
making space for them in our daily operations so that we can, we're not trying to, like I said to you earlier, not trying to start from scratch with things that were
Right.
already
Reinvent the wheel. We
right.
don't have
You
to
know
do
what I mean?
that
Things
every
that
time.
there a lot of this was already laid out in one of the places that many of these ideas and concepts are laid out are in books,
Yes,
Um, and
that's
so
true.
imagine if we just decided to spend more time shutting up and reading. We could learn a lot. We could, there's all that data that says that reading has the same effect on our brains as meditation and prayer. And so
Hmm.
we could be, all of those things could help us as a society in many ways, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Well, um, now how are the books doing? Have you gotten any feedback
I
yet?
get so much feedback. We got like I got my publisher's weekly review, I got my Kirkus review, I got my shelf awareness. It's interesting to kind of like be in this world where, and for folks who aren't, authors yet or aspiring authors, there's all of these pieces to being an author that you don't necessarily hear about until you enter into the gates. And the ways in which those reviews like just like with a movie, they help to determine who's going to read or where you'll be positioned. And so we've gotten some really great reviews there. And then, I got a chance. I was the audiobook reader for Shut Up and Read, which meant that
Okay,
and not many debut folk get to do something like that, right?
that's
And
true.
so it means that folks get to kind of hear my real voice and connect with my story in a different way. Um, and also for me, I'm just expanding, right? I'm expanding my lexicon, my what I can and cannot do in this world has just expanded so tremendously in the last few years, and what I believe I can and cannot do. And so the books are, from what I understand, they're doing really well. But it's also, Shut Up and Read's only been out for a week. I think
Right.
a week today.
Yes.
And
Tuesday's book
so
release day.
yeah, so it's Tuesday, so it's a week today, and then Jalen Hurts came into the bookshop, and our books came out on the same day, so him and I signed together, and I was like, "Whoa, this is like, this is huge, right? Like all of these unexpected miracles, blessings, that keep coming our way are also pretty cool. So, like, the opportunity to go share the book in Paris next month, or like the opportunity to, it's just incredible. It's incredible because a book, I tell people all the time, I said, book is not like a movie, right? Like where you got to get it done in that first weekend or it'll determine whether you have any success at all. A book can sit and it can bubble and it can shift, it can change. It can have its own life and it can live on without you for a very long time, forever even.
Yeah, our books outlive us. So that's one thing is
Yes, if we
awesome.
if we do it right,
If we do it right, well, even if we do it wrong, they might still outlive us. There's
right.
still a lot of times people pick up a book, and then it becomes a classic. So
Right.
we're at the
You
end of
never
our
know.
time. You never know,
And one of
Jeannine.
the things that my one of my mentors tells me all the time, she's like, "Listen, Jeannine, when you look at Toni Morris and when you look at Alice Walker, you got to remember that once upon a time, these were women who were showing up to events where there were, five people in the audience. These were women who were showing up to events with books in their trunk, right? Selling out of
Yes.
their trunk.
Yeah.
Terry McMillan didn't start off as Terry McMillan, right?
Right.
Waiting to Exhale didn't come out the same year that she wrote the book. Like, so you have to understand the way that she asked me often, are you in this for the long haul? Right? Because
Hmm.
you could be in it for the flash in the pan. You want a little real quick. A little, some noticing or some whatever. But if you're really in it for the long haul, then you do what they say in Swahili, pasa pasa, you pace yourself. And so I'm excited about that part of it too.
Yeah. Well, we're at the end of our time, Jeannine. Thank
Oh,
you
that was
so much.
quick.
It was fast. We were talking all kind of stuff. Thank you so much for being a guest.
But we got to
Congratulations.
spend some more time together, even outside of the show. I think there's a lot to learn from you, of course, for me as a bookseller and as an author. So please do keep me in mind, especially if you're ever in Philly.
Yeah, and I was in Philly a couple of years ago, but I don't know if I next time I come to Philly, I will definitely let you know ahead of
Yes,
time
yes,
so we
yes,
can get together.
absolutely. Thank you again for the invite and have a good one.
You're welcome. Thank you, and
All right.
congratulations again.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.